hello. Sean Brady with another fabulous episode of Leverage Your Lunch Hour and the Metaphysical Mindset Regrets. Boom. There's all kinds of them. That means metaphysical mindset that we're back with the one, the only, the super very cool Dr. Laurel Fuller Clark. Dr. Clark, welcome back.
Thank you, Sean. Good to be here.
Lovely to have you. Now we're talking regrets and what to do with them. And regrets. I've had a few, as the song goes. What what do we want to say about from a metaphysical mindset? What do we do with these things? Because everybody has them, right? Sometimes we minimize them, sometimes we explode them bigger than they need to be.
Right.
But from a metaphysical mindset standpoint, what do we do with these suckers?
You know, that's such a good question because, as you say, everybody has regrets. And what I've found is that sometimes people will say, oh, you just have to let it go. But if it's something that I've done that I feel really bad about, it's not so easy to just let it go.
Sure.
And sometimes people don't blame themselves, they blame another person and they don't let that go either.
Or an institution or a party or whatever.
Right. Or the economy or, whoever was president at the time. And I believe that there is a reason why we have a hard time letting it go. And I think it's because there's something that we need to understand. So we talked in a previous episode about life being like a schoolroom, that all of these life experiences are here for us to learn.
Yes.
And I think in situations where there is regret and a difficulty in forgiving either ourselves or other people, it's because we haven't learned the lesson. And so that internal pain, if you want to call it that, it might be, you feel sick to your stomach every time you think about it, or you feel something in your heart, or you feel like wringing the other person's neck, or whatever it is. That feeling, I think, is there because it's bringing our attention to a lesson that we still need to learn. And so if we don't learn it by karma, which is the extension of the law of cause and effect, we are going to either choose or draw to ourselves a similar situation, maybe not with the same person, but a similar kind of person, which is why it's not that uncommon for someone to be in a relationship, they break up, they blame the other person, they don't really admit what it is that they did, what their part was of what happened. And by some strange coincidence, they end up getting involved with someone else who's very similar to the person that they broke up from.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Right. Why is that? It happens because the person still has the same lesson. And so they're going to draw to themselves unconsciously or choose consciously a similar situation until they learn it. It's kind of like if you don't pass whatever you're supposed to learn in second grade, you have to repeat second grade.
Right.
So I think that the real key in being able to resolve a regret, to forgive ourselves or to forgive another person, is to identify what's the lesson here and then do something about it, not just intellectually say, oh yeah, I guess there's something for me to learn.
Right.
And interestingly, one of the things I specialize in is dreams and dream interpretation. And a very common dream for adults is to dream about being back in school. It might be high school, it might be college. They're in a class and they realize all of a sudden they're there to take a test and they haven't attended the class all semester. Or they're wandering halls and they can't find their classroom. And I've had people say, I'm not in school. Why is this happening? Well, in their waking lives, they are in school. They're in this schoolroom of life. And what that dream is telling them is they are aware at some level that there are lessons that they need to learn but like in the example of they haven't studied for the test,
Yeah.
they're not passing the tests in their waking lives.
Right.
So to say, okay, what is my lesson here and what do I need to do to learn it? That's what causes the resolution. So I'll give you an example for myself.
Yes, please.
I was very shy when I was growing up. I'm a middle child of three, and um, it seems like in many situations in my life, I have played the role of the person who understands other people who have problems, being a mediator, um, people around me being more loud and demanding, and instead of me fighting to get my way, just either feeling sorry for myself or genuinely feeling like it's not worth it for me to fight. I'll just let the other person have their way.
Right.
So sometimes that's been effective, but there are also times when I've made choices that I regretted, like, why did I let that person do that to me? And what I have learned over time of repeated experiences, as I have been talking about, is that my lesson in that is not to be louder and more demanding, but it is for me to be willing to voice whatever my concerns are instead of just withdrawing, keeping my mouth shut, feeling sorry for myself. So that requires doing something about it. So a recent example, I was supposed to teach a class. Half the students didn't show up. I was going to teach the class anyway. The students who were there said they really didn't want to um, do the class that day. They wanted to wait until the other people were there. So, I wasn't going to force them to be in a class. And so I said, okay. And this was teaching that I was doing through someone else who was paying me.
Hmm.
And so I thought about it. I tried to get a hold of the person who was the one who was uh, handling the payment to see if that was okay. I wasn't able to get a hold of them. So anyway, I waited for a long time to see if other people would arrive. They didn't. I ended up spending the same amount of time as I would have had I taught the class, but I didn't teach the class, and it wasn't through my choice. It was through the choice of the students. And I kept going over it and over it, thinking I should get paid for my time because I did everything I was supposed to do. The person who was in charge of the payment didn't offer that. And I thought, you know what? I should ask. If I don't ask, I'm not going to get paid. And if I don't ask, and if I therefore don't get paid, it's going to be one more of those situations of just swallowing it. What's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that can happen is I'll ask and they'll say no. Or maybe for me, even worse is to ask, and not only do they say no, but they say, why are you even asking that? Where then I feel like, there was something wrong with me for asking. But I thought, okay, this is a repeated lesson. I'm going to ask. And I asked, and they said, yes, you can get paid for your time. So for me, it was a good outcome financially because I got paid. What was even a better outcome for me was it gave me an indication that I am doing something different now than I had done and have done for a long time in terms of being more vocal about my own needs, being more assertive, um, putting aside whatever my concerns are about, what is someone going to think of me if I ask for something that I want? And one time isn't going to make a difference in a long-standing pattern that I've had. So it's going to take repeated practice. However, what I've found with other things is that when I am clear about what is the lesson that I have here, and I do practice that repeatedly, then I change, and then I don't have those situations anymore because I don't need them.
The lesson has been adopted.
Right. It's like I've graduated to the next lesson.
All right.
Not like you get to the point that there are no more lessons, I don't think, but you get new lessons instead of the same old ones.
Absolutely. That's very insightful. And I like that uh, you mentioned it was really an extension of cause and effect, the law of cause and effect.
Right.
And it's just, you got me thinking like you always do with this metaphysical mindset stuff. Just like, it's like, wow, it's really interesting where my brain goes. And I won't say where it's all going because I want people to think for themselves and just kind of expand into their own life and what's relative to them and important for them, because that's the whole idea behind Leverage Your Lunch Hour, is to stimulate their thinking so that they're just drawn in to whatever they're supposed to be drawn into.
Right.
What's their growth and learning that we're all supposed to take on? Mine is going to be as different from yours, and I'm sure some things will overlap.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I appreciate about what you're doing with Leverage Your Lunch Hour, because I wonder who might just stumble upon this. Maybe they don't know you and they're flipping through YouTube, or they put in leverage and you come up, or
Right.
people find you and other people on social media in sometimes strange and miraculous ways. So maybe what you're offering is just what somebody needs right at this time, and they end up finding this. So I think
Well,
that's great.
I know we were talking about regrets, and I was sharing earlier, previous to this call, that I was really dealing with things I did, things I haven't done, especially in money matters and things like that. But it's like the other thing that I thought of was a line from a movie, and it was, regrets are a waste of time, kind of like gloating. And then because the other people across the table were gloating, and it's like, what are you going to do when your board finds out you way overpaid for this? The moment was fleeting, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. Versus the regret, it's like no, I mean, it's like, yeah, stuff happens, and maybe how long we dwell on it or think about it allows us to learn that lesson faster, or maybe it's our willingness to learn the lesson or growth faster.
Yes, that's what I think. In being able to say, okay, if I had this to do over again, how would I have done it differently?
Yeah.
And I think what many people find is that if I had it to do over again now that I know what I didn't know then, I would do it differently. But if I really was back in the same place, the same mindset as I was then, maybe I would have made the same choices because I didn't know then what I know now. And I think that's a big element in being able to resolve the regret, is to really honestly say, okay, why did I make the choices that I did? Even though I'm not happy about them, I know why I made those choices. So, maybe I made those choices because I was in a rush and so I wasn't really thinking straight. Maybe I made those choices because I was feeling powerless. And so I developed this relationship with this other person who I didn't really like that much, because being associated with them gave me more power in XYZ situation, or whatever it is. That if we can really be honest about why we made the choices we did and say, okay, I learned from that. I'm in a different place now. So now I can make new and better choices. I think that's what helps with the regret, instead of just trying to erase it or say, oh, well, it's over and done with. As I was saying earlier, the physical situation might be over and done with, but if it keeps staying in our mind and in our emotions, it's not over and done with in terms of
Right.
what the learning is that we need.
We haven't learned and grown or put something into place.
Right, right.
Wow, it's really thank you. That's very insightful. Very cool. Jaleesa, I didn't want to totally leave you out of the picture. have you had any thoughts or I know your thinking always gets stimulated in our conversations too.
It
Anything you want to
does.
add or like you're present to just right now?
It does. Honestly, I've been in and out because I've been multitasking in the background here, helping out at
Well,
Medici.
that's part of the job.
A part of the job, but the conversation overall is really good, really
That's
interesting. The
very cool.
glimpses that I did catch.
Yes. Well, you always have the opportunity to go back and watch again. Uh,
Correct.
very cool. We'll get ready for the bumper. Dr. Clark, is there anything else you'd like to add? Because I know we have another fabulous episode of Coach's Corner coming up with Medici at 1:30 Central Time every Thursday. Anything you'd like to add before that?
Well, I would like to add that I appreciate Medici and Jaleesa's service in doing this. And especially if people are watching this now, there are some people who know Medici as a co-working space, which it is in terms of having physical spaces. It's also a membership community that offers this kind of communication among members. So Sean's at his home, I'm at my home, Jaleesa's at the Medici space, and there are lots of wonderful opportunities for people to collaborate remotely as well as in person. So I would encourage people to come to some of our meetings and get to meet the people and find out how Medici might be able to help.
Yeah, and wherever you're at on the planet, you can certainly log on to medici.com/events. That's Medici, MEDICISTL.com/events. So it's MediciSTL.com/events. But yeah, wonderful plug for Medici. We've both been members for multiple years, and it really is a fabulous community of like-minded people, entrepreneurs, people pursuing things, transitioning, and always testing the boundaries of our entrepreneurial life. So thanks for that plug. It's really a wonderful place. All right. Anything else for you? And then we'll sign off for this episode.
Just since you started talking about regrets, there's a great song by Phoebe Snow. I don't know if she wrote it or just sings it, called No Regret. So I'm going to find it and I'll send it to you after we're.
Very cool. We can share it on Coach's Corner later today.
Okay.
Very cool. All right, everybody. As we always say, we may not see you in person, but we'll always see you right here on social media. Thanks for watching. Good stuff.